What's up, plant family? Before we start this video, just come take a closer look at this foliage. It's glossy, it's the perfect shape, those veins. That is what everyone loves about the fiddle leaf fig. So that is what this video is going to be about today. Not just the typical classic fiddle leaf fig. This video is going to be about its little brother, the fiddle leaf fig Bambino. So the fiddle leaf fig and its younger brother, Bambino, they come from the genus Ficus, species lyrata. So if you know anything about musical instruments, a fiddle, it's like, kind of looks like, almost like a guitar kind of thing, like a small guitar, or banjo, or a lyre, which is lyre, lyrata, L-Y-R-E. That is where the Latin name comes from. And if you look at the shape of that foliage, it kind of has that oblong look of one of those musical instruments. This is the first time that I've done a video about the fiddle leaf fig, and the reason why I decided let's make a video is because I was at Costco the other day and I saw shelves of these beautiful fiddle leaf fig Bambinos over there for sale. So I figured, all right, this is the perfect occasion. Let's make a video showing how we like to care for them so that you can have this beautiful upright growth with that gorgeous glossy foliage. So a little background, the fiddle leaf fig, Ficus lyrata, it's in the Ficus genus, which is in the mulberry or Moraceae family. Other common plants in the Moraceae family, or I guess other plants in the Ficus genus would be like this plant right here. This is the rubber tree. This is also Ficus, but Ficus elastica. I also have a Ficus carica growing outside. That's like the fig that produces fruit. So these are all related. They're all in the same genus. But within the larger family group, the Moraceae family group, you'll find everything from banyan trees, jackfruits, and the luscious mulberries that have those like oblong black fruit, kind of like a blackberry. So they're all kind of interrelated. They're all, you know, genetically related. But specifically to the Ficus lyrata, these hail from the West African kind of rainforest, where it stays relatively warm and humid all year round. So here for us in the United States, we would classify this as a zone 10 to 12 plant, which means if you're living in zones 10 to 12, basically Miami, I think San Diego, parts of like really Southern California would be a zone 10. Those areas of the country, you can definitely grow these outside year round. For the rest of us, like us here in outside of Philadelphia, it is designated as a beautiful house plant that produces the rainforest vibe inside your home. But as a rainforest dwelling plant, there's a few things that you will learn when you think about where these come from. Okay, first and foremost, in the rainforest, these can actually grow up to about 100 feet tall. That's a very large one. When we were in Medellin, Colombia, where it's called the City of Eternal Spring, it's basically 65 to 80 all year round. We saw a Ficus lyrata growing up to like 150 feet tall. It was incredible. I'll do an overlay of a photo so you can see it. So the Ficus lyrata Bambino, it also is going to be it also is going to desire those rainforesty conditions. But this specific cultivar, Bambino, it only grows about maybe 3-4 feet tall. This one that I've been growing for a couple years, this is probably at its maximum height. It's probably not going to get much larger than that. And that's one of the reasons why I absolutely love this Bambino rather than just the classic Ficus lyrata. Those can get 10-12 feet tall if you have the space. This one is better suited for smaller dwelling units, apartments, things like that. I know that a lot of people think that the fiddle leaf fig is quite difficult to grow. It's tricky. It has that kind of sentiment associated with it, but I'm telling you, this has been a super easy plant for me to grow if you follow a few basic steps, okay? So as a rainforest dwelling plant, this is gonna want something that has relatively bright light all year round. So not a north-facing window. It also doesn't wanna be, it doesn't wanna be in that back corner back there. It's gonna want to be relatively near to a window, within maybe 2 feet of a window, and a window that is like east could be good, but better would be south or west facing window. So let me bring you to where I actually we're just doing our video in this beautiful room that we've been redecorating. I thought we would make a fun video in here. It's just so pretty, but this is not where I grow my plants. Let's come to my office, my plant room, and I'll show you where I actually grow this Ficus lyrata. So you all know my plant room. This is where all of my prized specimens are growing. And I have this corner over here next to my Monstera, the corner for the Ficus, for my Fiddle Leaf Fig, Bambino. So this would be this is kind of, south is that way, so this is kind of like a southwest facing window. And as you can see, I have it just about 12 inches away from my window. It stays nice and bright here all year round, which is great. I don't have, there's great lighting, but there's no lights that are directly shining specifically on this plant. It doesn't need the intense lighting like, say, a banana might desire. Or what are some other plants that really like a lot of light? My Pilea peperomioides, these like a lot of light. It doesn't need that bright, but it does want a rather bright location. Now, one thing that you should know and do take note of is it is true they don't necessarily love to be moved. So when you find the right location, let it stay in that location. That is what's going to help it to grow the most upright. Now, I just took it out and I brought it back. There's a good chance it's going to start to get a little bit of a lean over the next week or two. But then after 2 weeks, it will recorrect itself and start growing upright again. So what happens when you move it around a lot, they will have a tendency to kind of lean one way or the other. But I find by keeping it set in that location, that's how it's going to grow the most upright, which is what I particularly like. So I'm going to leave this one here as we continue with the rest of our video. Okay, so next let's talk about the watering and humidity requirements for the Bambino, or any other fiddle leaf fig for that matter. So as a lowland rainforest dwelling plant, it does want a rather fair amount of humidity. It doesn't need as much humidity as some of my anthuriums might, but definitely like 30 to 50% relative humidity is great. So I have my humidity and temperature gun that I bought on Amazon for like 15 bucks. I'll send a link, I'll put a link in the description. And I love this because you can just check what the temperature and humidity of a plant's soil and surrounding area is. So this says that it's at 65.5 degrees with a 49% relative humidity. That is beautiful. If it's anything below 30%, it's gonna struggle. So you wanna try to get that humidity at least 30. That would kind of be the bottom threshold, and anywhere up to 60, it's hard to get much more than like 60% inside the home, unless you live in like Miami. Well, in that case, grow it outside. Anyway, so now that we know the humidity situation, when it comes to watering, the key is you want the soil to be able to stay sort of moistened, but not sopping wet. And it also doesn't like to dry out for extended periods of time. That sounds like a lot, but how do we accomplish that goal? Number one, you want to think about a high quality potting mix. I'll leave a link for the potting mix that I make for pretty much all of my plants, so that if you want to make your own homemade potting mix, which I think is the best way to do so, you can get that right amount of moisture, that retention, but also good drainage. It really needs that kind of combination of good moisture retention, but great drainage at the same time. So check out my recipe for that. So right here I have my Tupperware filled with my soil mixture, my homemade mix. It's super easy to make, 5 ingredients, and I'm gonna repot our ficus here in a minute. And here you can see how beautiful, nice, and fluffy this mixture is. So if you don't want to follow that recipe, you can just do a three-part mix, 1 part bagged potting mix, 1 part sand, and 1 part sphagnum moss, and that'll be a nice even keel potting mix for our Ficus lyrata Bambino. But the other thing that you'll notice is having that good soil mix is great, but look at the size of this container. This is a small container. That is the key with these plants. You want to let them grow in a small container basically until the last moment. You might look at this and think, okay, it's time to plant it into the next size container. And yes, I am going to do it, but I could just as easily keep it in here. And how do I know that it's doing all right and that it doesn't need to be replanted? Well, look. You see that? There is new growth occurring. So new growth is only going to happen if there is enough roots to support new growth. Because it's growing new leaves, that means the roots are happy and it's still continuing to thrive in this size container. And by having it in a size container like this, it's really easy. You can water it in the summertime. I probably would water it every 2 to 3 days. In the wintertime, a little bit less because it's cooler, maybe every 4, 5, 6 days. Okay, so as we water it, basically just go around the edges and make sure that it's nice and moistened all the way through. It's really simple to take care of these plants. If you get that right kind of mixture of great soil, bright lighting, and for allowing the soil to remain moistened, but not overly soppy and not dry for too long. You see, water went right through the base super quickly, super efficiently. That is exactly what we want to see. We don't want to see wet soil remaining wet for a very, very extended long period of time. I'm going to discard this. Okay, so in terms of fertilizing, I will do a nice kind of diluted fertilizer once a month, all year round. And what I use this comes from my family's brand, Roberta's Bounty. This is a balanced fertilizer. I use it on all of my house plants, but I also use it on my outdoor plants, even my fruits and vegetables. It's like a 15-30-15, and I basically just follow the directions. It's like a tablespoon of fertilizer for a gallon of water, and then I just water the plant normally when I have that kind of fertilizer mixture here in my container. Okay, so you've been growing your fiddle leaf fig for a while and you decide that it is now time to plant it in a larger container. So I have this snake plant here and I have this blue pot here. I want to show you guys going from this size to this size would be a no-no. Do not do that. You'd be skipping a step. If you want happy houseplants, you need to kind of gradually upplant them as they mature. You don't want to go from, like imagine like an 8-year-old wearing like a full man suit. It's just going to be swimming in all that soil and it's not going to be happy. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to transplant the snake plant into here, and then I'm going to use this container to plant up my fiddle leaf fig. All right. Looks pretty good. I'm just going to put this over here on the side for now. It is generally a good rule of thumb to kind of wash your containers between plants, but I've previously inspected this plant. It's healthy, there's no pests, so I'm not concerned about transferring pests from that snake plant to my ficus, all right? And I actually do appreciate watering my plants before I transplant them. It makes the process a little bit easier when you are transplanting a slightly moistened plant. Oh wow, look at this. This is a great sign. This means it's so healthy. You can see that the roots are starting to wrap around, which is also a good signal that it does, that it would appreciate being repotted. You don't want plants roots to kind of wrap all the way around because in time that does definitely restrict growth. So when a plant looks like this, that's a good signal. All right, let's transplant it to a larger container. So like anything, the first thing that we want to do is we want to kind of rip these up. You never want to transplant something with the root ball all circling up. So just kind of gently or roughly kind of break them up a little bit, all right? You're not hurting them, so don't worry. If it feels like a nice, like big mass of roots in there, let that section be. Just kind of these exterior ones are what we want to kind of loosen up, all right? I like to take some of the top off as well, because when we're repotting, we're always using fresh soil. And so by adding in the most fresh soil possible, that's where a lot of the nutrients are gonna be coming from. So by removing some of that topsoil, we are making space for new fresh soil with new nutrients to be added in, all right? So leave this here, I have my container. Okay, like always, we start, fill the base a little bit, check to see how it looks. That looks like it's gonna be about perfect. Try to flare these roots out as best you can. It's maybe not gonna be as good as you'd hope, but it'll be okay, just like that. And then fill in the edges. You can see my soil is nice and fluffy. Give it a pat down. Make sure it's nice and upright. And any newly planted plant, always give it a watering in. And I like to kind of just pat it down just to make it sure. You don't want to put too much pressure, but just kind of pat down any of that soil around the edges. Look at how cute this is. That is why I love the Bambino. It is the perfect shaped plant. Upright, has these gorgeous glossy leaves. It stays cute and compact, perfect for apartments, bedrooms, dorms, wherever you may live. And in terms of the temperature inside the home, anywhere from 60 to 75 degrees is great. The warmer, the better. It will appreciate closer to 70, but it will tolerate down to about 60 inside the home. Outside in nature, this is definitely an evergreen tree, so it will be evergreen for you inside your home, bringing you these gorgeous rainforest vibes wherever you may live. I hope that video was informative, to the point, and answered any questions that you may have regarding the care for the Ficus lyrata, the Fiddle Leaf Fig, Bambino. Anyways, thanks for joining me here on Plant Vibrations. If you do have any further questions, leave a comment below. I always try to respond to all the questions and comments that I can. Anyways, stay tuned as I am constantly uploading new videos, short ones in the week time, and then every Sunday a longer form video like this one. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you later. Ciao.